welcome to the first part of the brand new Moho-ho Christmas crochet-along. What are we making this time, you ask? It's a tree skirt. Oh, look, isn't it beautiful? Love it so much. It coordinates beautifully with the stocking from last year, but don't worry, if you didn't make that, you can still make this. So it's going to be divided into a few parts. Part 1 today, what I'm going to show you is how we make these circles. Part 2, we will turn them into hexagons. Part 3, we will join these all together and do a little bit around here. Part 4, we'll do the neck. Don't know, does a skirt have a neck? It's a waistband, really. Part 5, we'll do this, and then part 6, we will do our border, the pom-poms, which I haven't put on yet because I'm still trimming to perfection, and the buttonholes and button band. All right then, let's get on with it. Part 1, we're going to have a look at how we make these circles. Now you're going to need to make 9 of these circles. That's 9. Let's work that out. 9. Oh, I need to moisturise. So I used 3 accent colours. I had this duck egg, I've got a teal, and I've used red, so I'm going to do 3 of each colour. Right, so let's get on it. So I'm using a 5mm hook, and you can see that there, 5mm hook, which I know is smaller than recommended for this chunky yarn, but we want it to be quite a tight fabric that we produce, so we want it to be pretty sturdy and tight. All right, that was the chair squeaking, not my bum. Right then, let's get on with it. So we are going to start here with our little slip knot, and pop it on our hook, lace yourself up. So we're going to chain 3 first of all. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to work 11 treble crochets into that first chain that we made. This is going to be like our magic loop. If you prefer to do a magic loop, you can do. I find this just a bit easier. So a treble is where we go wrap around, in and back to give us 3 loops, wrap and through 2, wrap and through 2. That's 1. Again, wrap through, back, wrap and through 2, wrap and through 2, 2. So we just carry on with that, and it should be producing quite a sort of tight, not too lacy fabric, because we want it to be nice and sturdy underneath your tree. Have a little bit of structural integrity. Lovely. So as you're doing these as well, you might need to just sort of like keep scooshing round, because it's going to get tight in this circle with 11 in there. It's going to be a bit of a squish, so keep scooshing round. Technical term. Give it a scoosh. Let's do there. Right, so we'll do a quick count. Now, if you're not sure how to count trebles, there's 2 ways. You can either count your V's going around the edge, or you can kind of try and get your fingers between them and count them like that. I quite like to count my V's. So that's my turning chain. That's still going to count as a stitch. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. But that includes my chain, so I need 1 more, and I want to end up with 11 trebles plus a turning chain. Lovely. Okay, so we're all right there. So we're then going to join with a slip stitch. So I'm going to join up here. So I put my hook through there underneath 2 strands. I'm going through the chain that's at the stitch that's at the top of that first treble there. Stick it through, catch it, and pull it back. If we then do a quick count, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we are going to work into, when we do our chain, this bit is going to count as a stitch. It's always worth doing a count to check. So we're now going to chain 2, and that's going to count as our first stitch. And we want to turn as well. I like to chain and then turn. Other people like to turn and then chain. Either way, whatever you fancy. So this stitch is going to go into the bottom of here, and what we want to do is on this one we're going to do 2, or the equivalent of 2 trebles into each stitch. So we should end up with 24, including the turning chain. So exactly the same, we're going to go underneath both sides of the V at the top there, back, run through 2, run through 2. So that counts as your first 2, and then 4, 6, get a bit of wool, oh it's got stuck under my chair. So that's 1 and then another one into the same stitch at the bottom. If you're not sure how many you've done, if you put this down mid-circle, as if you could, and you're not sure how many you've done, look at your stitch, and if there's only 2 strands going into there, that's only 1 stitch. We want it to look like this, so there's 4 strands going in. So we go in, lovely. So you don't have to do any scooshing on this one, they should just all fan round nicely. Lovely. That tail out the way. So let's have a quick count now and see, because it's very easy to get a bit confused on these joins. So stretch your length. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So this bit here, although it looks like your stitch is going into it already, we've still got to do 2 more into there. And a lot of people, I think last year on the stocking, where if you get this wrong, then the whole rest of your hexagon last year and pentagon this year will not fit. So that's our 24 there. So we're going to follow our chain up here, underneath the 2 bars there, hook it and pull a slip stitch through there. All right then, round 3 and the final round of our initial circle. So same again, 2 chain, flip it. So this time we want to end up with 36 stitches. So that's going to be a repeat of 2 into 1, 1 into the next. So if you think of it as increase, 1, increase, 1. When I'm doing increases and I'm making circles like this, I always count up to the number that I want to do. So if I'm counting up to 3 in my repeat, I go like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that I know that my 1, 2s are always into the same stitch. So that's bad when you're counting up to 3. But if you're doing something bigger in amigurumi and it's got 26 in between your increases, then you can get a bit sidetracked. Right, so that's going to count as my 1. So that's me 1, 2. And 1 into the next one, that's 3. So we go 1, 2 into the same, and 3. Oh, got well stuck. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Do you want me to fast forward? Okay, so I've done my 1, 2, 3. So I've got 1, 2 and 3, and that will finish off my round 1, 2 and 3. And then we're going to do a lovely little invisible join. You remember how we did these? So we're going to snip off. Ooh, dramatic. And then we're going to get our yarn needle. So we pull this loop all the way out of there and get rid of your hook. Thread this on. You'll notice I'm not using my normal Knit Pro needles with a nylon loop on the end. That is not making me happy, but I lost it. I lost my last one down the side of the sofa this morning. So I'm on this until I can get a new packet. Right, so what we do is to create an invisible join, we're going to join into this stitch here. And I'm going to go underneath both sides of it like this. Okay, and then go back into the one where I came out of, and what I'm going to do is just pick up that there, which is the loop behind it. So I've got my front, my back bar and the loop behind it, and I pull it in and I'm disappeared it then. That well-known verb. So if we stick that in there, then we need to make sure we've got 36 stitches now, because if we have more than 36 around this edge, your hexagon, pentagon geometry isn't going to work. So if we start counting it there, well, let's go 1, 2, 3. And 36. Right, so it's worth doing that count, because I think last year a few people slip stitched it either a bit late, or they sewed it through a bit late or a bit early, and then they didn't end up with quite the right number to turn it into your hexagon. So what you can do then is, and I do recommend doing this as you're going along, you can use your ends to your needle to sew in your ends. If you've never sewn in ends before, in crochet we have to sew ends in 2 directions. So I pick up if you look at the bottom of each stitch where your row is, there's these like 2 little legs of each stitch. So I go through for about the length of a needle, first of all. So let's go through to about there. Pull it through like that. Stretch it so that it reaches the required tension. And then I pick up 1 bar here, just go in the opposite direction, just so that it'll catch my thread. And then I come back about half the way that I did. So I started there, so I'm going to come back to about here and pull it through. Don't pull that one too tight, just pull it until your tension matches the rest of your fabric, and then snip it off. The reason you have to sew them in 2 directions is because crochet is such a loosey-goosey fabric that if you only sew them in 1 direction, they'll start poking out, and then you'll trim it off, and then it'll poke out again, you'll trim it off, and it'll poke out again, and you'll get to your end, it'll unravel, and then you'll cry. And we don't want crying, do we? In the middle, just sew them. Sew them. It was a bit informal, wasn't it? So we can tell it's Sunday. I'm not in work mode. Right, so we come through here, through there, and I just go around it a few times. This one you don't necessarily have to sew in 2 directions, because it's not going to be pulled apart that often, I don't think, the centre of a circle. And if you do have a bit of a baggy hole, you can use these stitches to just sort of like cinch it together. Oh, come back, Knit Pro needle, all is forgiven. This thing's rubbish. Right, okay, like that. Oh, tight pull, snippy snippy, lovely jubbly. Right, next time we're going to need our main colour, and we're going to be attaching around here, and we're going to turn this circle into a pentagon. Right, thank you, see you soon, bye bye.